Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we're beginning a series all about intimacy. And specifically, we're talking about the balance between emotional and physical intimacy.
Feeling connected, but it's through touch. And then it can be non-sexual and it can be sexual.
There, you said the word trust. I think it takes a lot of trust to be open. And we start to talk about just how important the two are for you to have a happy and healthy relationship.
What would that feel like for you, for me, for us, for our family? Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation podcast. I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin. And we are beginning today a series on intimacy. And to get more specific, we're talking about the importance of understanding physical intimacy and emotional intimacy and why they are so interconnected on having a really healthy, intimate relationship with your partner.
And we know when couples are struggling and they're coming to see us, or even listeners that are reaching out to us, they're usually struggling in one of those areas, emotional or physical intimacy, yet they don't understand that the two are together. And we want to help couples, individuals understand how they balance and complement each other out. But in order to do that, we really want to kind of peel back all the layers of physical and emotional intimacy. And again, this is why the series part is going to be happening, because we really want to help you define what physical and emotional intimacy are and the key elements of both, why they're both important and essential to long-term relationships, understanding the barriers to physical and emotional intimacy, because there are many, and then ultimately, right, probably our final podcast in the series, how to rebuild or even build that balance between physical and emotional intimacy that's going to give your relationship the best chance to thrive and feel what it should feel like for each of you. So yeah, we're excited. We're really excited for this series, and we'd love to hear your feedback after you've listened to everything and let us know how it was helpful, hopefully.
So the first thing we want to do is really get into this idea of pulling intimacy. You know, hey, me and my partner feel disconnected. We don't have intimate connection. Is pulling that apart and really defining what is physical intimacy, what is emotional intimacy. And so I think we're going to start with emotional intimacy, right?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, I mean, emotional intimacy for me, like the first thing that like just pops into my consciousness when I just say that word is it goes below my head. You know, it goes down into my heart. Yeah. And emotional intimacy to me is that ability to sort of, you know, be who I am completely with my partner.
I love that. It's that feeling that I can be imperfect, that I'm not going to feel judged, that I can share my feelings, thoughts, experiences, whatever they may be, openly and freely. Like I trust that you will be able to handle it with care and compassion, and that I can, basically be my unique self and you accept me for it. That is, for me, that is exactly what emotional intimacy means.
And it leads to this just very deep sense of closeness with the other person. And I think that's one of the hard things for couples or one individual in particular, maybe within the couple, to really understand when they hear their partner say, I don't feel emotionally connected. I don't feel like we're emotionally intimate with one another. It's very abstract, because it really is a feeling. It's that when there's a difficult moment, you know, when I really need to be seen, to be heard, that my partner is there for me, and not just that they're there for me, but that I can be present for them. Like I can open up my heart. I can tell you things that are, you know, that are sort of like hidden away inside of myself, or maybe I don't even completely understand. And I'm able to do that, and you're able to be present for it, even if it's kind of clunky or not said in the perfect way.
Well, to me, what you're sharing and saying is like this idea of mutual respect, right? Emotional safety is about mutual respect, where I can come in as my own unique self. You can come in as your own unique self, and we respect each other's differences. We're able to validate. Again, that feels safe. You're not trying to change me. I'm not trying to change you. So that's a huge piece of emotional intimacy, is that trust, that mutual respect, that we can be our unique selves together without fear of judgment.
And you hit it there. You said the word trust. I think it takes a lot of trust to be open.
Right.
And trust gets depleted, and we're going to get there eventually, but it gets depleted for a multitude of reasons. And if we want to be emotionally connected, I have to trust that I can be open, and vice versa.
Right.
You have to trust me that you can be open.
And it's very important. Emotional intimacy is very important for long-term relationship satisfaction, because we know we go through all these different life transitions. And if we're able to continue to build, because it's a continuous building of emotional connection and intimacy, we're going to feel really satisfied.
Absolutely. I mean, it's vital to your relationship's wellness, which is so interesting, right? That something that's a little bit abstract, a little bit hard to understand, is so like vital to you having a deeply connected relationship with your partner.
And before we kind of go into the definition of physical intimacy, I just want to say that when emotional intimacy is not present, there can be other areas of your relationship that feel functional, but there's still this sense of disconnection. So when we see couples like, God, we're so great at this and great at this, we start to really look at, their emotional safety or their emotional connection probably needs to be built more, because there is just this, it could be, again, satisfying in all these other areas, but there's just still this sense of disconnection that could definitely be where emotional intimacy still needs to have some work done, if you will.
Yeah, and I think hopefully this kind of fits in with what you're saying, Tarah, and it's a little bit about us. Is like it's also like not like a total switch, like that we've gotten better. Emotional intimacy was something we struggled with for a while, and now we still struggle with it. But because we've been working on it, it's like it can be elusive. So there can be a moment where we're not feeling emotionally connected at all, and then we can kind of find our way back to it more quickly.
Yes.
Because we've cultivated trust, and because I want you to feel open to be who you are, and because we've learned to accept aspects of each other that we don't necessarily always like, but we understand that that's a part of who they are. And if I'm going to be emotionally connected to you, I have to accept all of you. And that kind of comes back to the definition, is like that emotional intimacy is that we accept each other wholly.
Yeah, I love that. What a great move into defining what physical intimacy is, because it's still that same idea of feeling connected, but it's through touch.
Yeah.
It's through bodily touch sensation, and it can be non-sexual and it can be sexual, but physical intimacy is caring and loving for your partner through touch and bodily contact.
Well, and I think it's so important what you said there, is you broke it into two, and those are two of the key components of a physically intimate relationship, is both sexual and non-sexual touch. That in order for us to have a more, maybe more intimate, deeply connected sexual relationship, there has to be this cultivation of touch that's not sexual, that's not leading any place, but it's just reassuring. It's I'm here. I care.
Sense of connection.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting, trust me, much more thorough with examples of all of this. And all couples have a different level of physical intimacy. Like everyone has like their own unique, like what's comfortable to them. But overall, it's just creating that sense of connection and caring and security through physical touch, whether that touch is non-sexual or sexual or even physical proximity.
Well, and I think this is a huge one. It just like jumped out at me. And it's definitely something that we've talked about in the context of our own relationship over the years is I think a key component to physical intimacy is also body language. Is that like, and that's physical, is that when you look at me, my body language is not telling you that I'm shut off. It's that like in a difficult moment,
come close to me.
Yeah, that I'm safe, and I think that's a key component of physical intimacy as well.
Ooh.
Is like we are physically safe in each other's proximity.
I did not have that in my outline.
I know.
I like that one though. Now I'm going to do more research. So before we kind of get into the elements of both, right? As you can probably hear what EJ and I have been talking about, that having physical and emotional intimacy and have a balance between them is going to give you a really deep, connecting, awesome feeling of love.
Yeah.
And that they go with each other. They are in combination with each other.
They reinforce each other. They create momentum.
Yeah.
They are a inseparable, as far as we see it, part of the same ecosystem of intimacy that they are, because I was even thinking like the body language thing we just talked about, that is, that definitely sort of has one foot in emotional intimacy,
it does.
One foot in physical intimacy.
Well, yeah, because what if you're hugging me and your hug is like this cold hug and I could feel that, but it's still physical touch. But is it physical touch that is like helping a close physical connection, or is that, we have to do this? So that's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and I think what happens with couples, and we're going to get deeper into this, but this talks a lot about sort of that relationship of cultivating both physical intimacy and emotional intimacy, that when there's a breakdown in one or the other, it creates tension because instead of it being this ecosystem that's like that, I'm emotionally safe, I'm physically safe, we're physically connected, we're emotionally connected. What happens is there's these lapses in connection. And then it starts to feel just kind of wonky. And because people have preferences and people are more, it's easier for one to be physically intimate, it's easier for one to be emotionally intimate, that then when they're not in working together, they start to break down. And
we do know that when emotional intimacy is there, that leads to more physical intimacy. When physical intimacy is there, it leads to more emotional intimacy, all equal connection, shared connection, feeling loved, feeling secure, feeling taken care of and taken care for.
Well, and it's why we're in relationship, right?
Yeah.
We're in relationship. You are my special person that I have a bond with, unlike anyone else in this world. And when we are physically connected, when we are emotionally connected, it's just beautiful. It feels good. I feel safe. I feel, there's someone that I can be me with. And so.
Yeah. And I do think just explaining because intimacy, right, it's on the spectrum, but that there's two pieces of it, physical and emotional. And if we can bridge those two together in ways that feel good for both people, it's incredible, because usually one is lacking, and that's where ruptures can come in.
So what we've done so far is we've said an intimate relationship is more complex. It's not just one thing, that there's physical intimacy and that there's emotional intimacy. And we've defined exactly what those two things are. And we've also just talked about the necessity of them both being cultivated. There's a direct relationship between being physically and emotionally connected. And so now what we want to do is we want to take each one and we want to tease it out a little bit more and talk about what are the key elements in physical intimacy and emotional intimacy. And as always, we'll start with emotional intimacy.
Why is that as always?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think it's because we fundamentally believe once relationship gets sort of complex, which it eventually does, and it's out of the honeymoon stage, that there has to be a foundation of an emotionally intimate connection in order to sustain the physical connection. I think there is a fundamental belief there. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
I think so. I think it's just different for everybody, but it was just interesting to hear that, like the words that, like as always. And so I had to like understand what that meant.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. In the process that we lead couples through, I know that we focus early on emotional connection, emotional check-ins, identifying your emotions, communicating them to your partner. It's the first thing we hit. And so I think it does just sort of make sense.
Yeah, we always make sure that emotional trust is there first before we even go into like physical intimacy. I get that.
We do.
Okay, so key elements of emotional intimacy. Oh, number one for me, vulnerability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, just the ability to express thoughts, feelings, experiences, and you will not be judged for it. And your partner will accept your vulnerability and not use it against you. I had to say that because we have couples that come in and they're terrified of being vulnerable because the last time I was vulnerable, they used it against me. That's not what we're talking about here. Vulnerability for us is just that ability to share emotions, experiences, thoughts freely without the fear of criticism, rejection, all of that.
I mean, when I think of vulnerability, I think of, is my heart open or is my heart closed? And just like the image for me is like when my heart is closed, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. And so I have to have it closed off, right? And then so how can I connect with you in a deep way if there's a barrier up? And so vulnerability is a key element of emotional connection because it's opening up. It's saying, I can show you who I am, and I can, we're leading into the next key component. I can trust that you will not, use that against me, or you will not seize this as an opportunity to hurt me.
So we've talked about vulnerability. That other element you're talking about is emotional safety, right? That fear of like that you can express your feelings freely without feeling like you're going to be ridiculed or dismissed or used against you. So we've got vulnerability, we've got emotional safety. Then there is authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah, because it's like I open my heart and then I can be who I am.
Yeah, the ability to be your true self. No facade, no mask, no, I need to be this person. I can come in as my true unique selves, which sometimes we even discover while we're in relationship. And a huge key component of emotional intimacy is authenticity.
Well, and that's interesting because the way we initially began to describe it was like authenticity, like from like sort of my side, that I can just like be who I am and how good that feels. But there's also like a reciprocal side that like if my partner, if Tarah isn't being thought authentic, it's really hard to connect with her. Like how can I connect? How can I have emotional intimacy with my partner when what they're offering to me is not authentic? So it's an interesting way to look at it that because it might be the barrier of like, I don't feel safe to be authentic, or I'm struggling to be authentic because I'm disconnected from myself. So we talk about vulnerability in emotional intimacy. We talk about emotional safety. We talk about authenticity. And then there's
the mutual understanding piece.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
It's just about, because it kind of relates to the authenticity piece. Like I can be my unique self and you can be your unique self. But the validation around that, like especially if like people get into conflict and stuff, that like we're honoring and respecting our unique differences and giving that compassion and giving that validation instead of like, how dare you think that way, or how, right? And so it's just that mutual respect of our authentic selves, I guess. Yeah. They really bleed into each other.
And then here's the other like really interesting component of this is, we're talking about sort of, more like abstract kind of squishy things, vulnerability and authenticity and emotional safety. But then there's the nuts and bolts in emotional intimacy of communication.
Right.
Of like, how we communicate with one another, because communication is such a way, it's how we connect, it's how we express our ideas, it's how we work through problems together. And if we're not communicating with each other in a way that cultivates emotional intimacy, our communication can be the thing that completely breaks down our ability to connect.
And we'll for sure be saying a lot more about that as the series continues. But yeah, having a communication, having those meaningful conversations with each other, and really giving that listening, right? The validation, the compassion.
Yeah.
Like that feels really good. That's what leads to like healthy conflict resolution, because we all get trapped in our stuff. Right?
And can I say just like a little bit more about communication? Because it's just like, it's hitting me deeply in that, both in our relationship and then in some couples I'm working with right now is, for instance, we work together and we talk about a lot of stuff that doesn't have to do with our emotional connection, but that's caused us problems, is that we have to be like kind and loving and authentic and vulnerable, even about subjects where it might be like, wow, I just want to communicate about it. Like I'm thinking of one couple I have where they have had parenting issues over the years. And in those times, things would get very like, the way they would communicate was not healthy. And that definitely did not breed emotional intimacy,
right?
And so it's just an interesting thing of like how it all sort of folds together.
So thank you for sharing that, and I love examples. So final component for emotional intimacy, and to me it's like so significant because emotional intimacy builds over time. We build emotional intimacy basically through like suffering and knowing each other and getting to know each other better and through life's transitions, right? So this final one, it's consistency and presence, that you have consistent actions that demonstrate care, empathy, and attentiveness, and you're emotionally available, that you are present for your partner, you're emotionally available, and you are consistently doing actions that foster that.
That's so important, right? Because if there's sort of just brief episodes of emotional connection, of emotional openness, of vulnerability, it's just not enough. That the person ultimately starts to just, coming back to the original metaphor of open heart or closed heart, it's like, well, if it's inconsistent and it's even sort of veering into like mostly not authentic, mostly not vulnerable, if it's not consistent enough, eventually somebody's heart just sort of like closes on a more permanent basis, and it's just like, I just don't open up. So all of those other aspects, the vulnerability, the trust, the authenticity, the mutual understanding, the communication, there has to be a movement towards those being consistently present.
Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
So there you are. Those are the components for emotional intimacy. Just talking about it makes me just feel like all warm inside, because I love that we've built our emotional intimacy, though we still have our ruptures, right? We all do. So now let's go into physical intimacy, the components of that. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So for me, I think there's about 4 we want to cover, maybe 5. Non-sexual touch.
Yeah.
So physical intimacy, remember, is we're using touch, physical gestures to show our love and our care. And so non-sexual touch are gestures like hugging, kissing, holding hands. Again, it's just maybe even sitting close together. It's just a way to show your support and care, and it's kind of like this feeling of safety.
One thing I see in couples I work with is the almost instinctual reaching across and just holding each other's hand, or just like putting your hand on your partner's knee or your shoulder, is that those gestures of like, I care, I love you, you're safe with me, that have nothing to do with sex, but just have everything to do with, I care about you.
Yeah, not non-sexual touch.
Absolutely.
Well, and then there's sexual touch.
Good old sexual touch.
Yeah, it's just, right, that ability to share your desires and pleasures in a sexual way that couples really like and love, but then sometimes lose it. And then they get really frustrated, like, what just happened?
Yeah.
But experiencing pleasure together in a sexual way.
Yeah. And that's so important to make sure people know that is an aspect of physical connection. It is not all of physical intimacy.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times when couples come in, they see intimacy as just physical touch, sexual touch.
Yes. Well, that's so another component of physical intimacy is affection, right? Just like with non-sexual touch, affection is just like, it's kind of spontaneous. It's like maybe I come and like you're cooking dinner and I put my hand on your shoulder, or I'm like, hey, let me give you a back rub. It's just this like organic, I care about you, I love you, and I just want to show you affection physically by touching you somehow. Again, it doesn't mean the expectation of sexual touch. It's just caring, I love you.
Well, I think it's an offering of comfort, because I think that one of the things we crave, obviously we have for, tens or hundreds of thousands of years, is we don't want to go through this life alone. We want to have another person that we feel deeply connected to. And physical affection, physical intimacy is sort of a reassurance of the comfort that, hey, you're not alone. I'm here, even in like, I can just think of like, our kitchen is the hub of our life. And a lot of times there's a lot of stress and there's things being cooked and conversations being had, and walking next to Tarah and occasionally like, placing my hand on her shoulder, giving her a little kiss on the cheek. Like, I think it's like, hey, you're not alone. Like, yeah, we're dealing with a lot of chaos this morning, but I'm here. And I know I feel that when there's like a spontaneous physical touch, it's like, oh, I'm not alone.
Affection feels really good. Again, it's more spontaneous. And then, right, another element is the comfort piece, right? Like you can use touch to comfort your partner who's in despair, who's maybe going through something difficult, right? Because there's that organic affection and I love you and hugs and kisses. And then there's also like, wow, I see that this was a really hard day for you. Let me come in and hold you. Let me snuggle you. There is physical touch for comfort, physical touch for affection, physical touch for sexual affection. But that comforting piece, research shows it drastically reduces anxiety and depression. And when we're held in comfort by our partner because we are going through a distressing time, that feels so connecting. Okay, so we've talked about non-sexual touch. We've talked about sexual touch. We've talked about affection. We've talked about comforting touch. And then there's also, within the realm of physical intimacy, physical presence. So just being near your partner or even leaning on them on the sofa, that can feel really connecting. Like it's just that I've got you. We're here with each other. Again, physical proximity. There's so many, I'm just thinking about these, so many couples that like when they first come in, they're on separate ends of the sofa.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
And by the end of their journey with our relationship renovation method, they're literally sitting close. Or sometimes when there has been a huge disruption in physical and emotional intimacy, I'll say, you guys, will you scooch together and just kind of lean on each other? And like, what is that feeling of? And usually they'll like really get into that leaning on each other. Like, oh, like I feel like there's this support. Like they've got me, like I've got them, like we can lean into each other, but they so haven't leaned in on each other for so long that just that physical presence, there's no kissing, there's no expectation of sex. It's just that leaning into each other because they're there, they're doing couples counseling, like, let's do this. It's just this comforting feeling. And so really helping them understand that a part of physical intimacy is just that physical presence, and leaning in can feel really safe and secure for a lot of couples.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think of, I think of like our couch. We have a big couch.
Oh, I know.
And in times
it
we're
sits
feeling,
at 19.
in times where we're feeling really connected, we're like right next to each other. We're on that little, one side together.
On that one cushion.
Yeah, on that one cushion. And when we're feeling really disconnected, we tend to not be in proximity to one another. We tend to go to different sides of the couch.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're hoping today that we really helped you. There's still some, importance of emotional intimacy, importance of physical intimacy. But we hope just like going through that piece helps you understand the key elements of emotional intimacy and physical intimacy, and kind of to wrap it all up. Why is it important, EJ?
I mean, it's because we kept them separate. I think it's important to define what's important about each one separately. I mean, I think emotional intimacy, it offers a deeper connection. I think it makes you feel really secure in your relationship. I think it allows you to resolve conflict in a healthier way because you can have difficult talks. You're emotionally safe and you move towards the resolution of your conflict a lot easier. And then I just think you feel more, you feel more satisfied in your relationship overall. And these are all like, these are all just feelings, their emotional intimacy just creates this feeling of we are connected.
And we will be okay.
Yeah, it's safe.
And then for physical intimacy, it's just that bonding. Like you're the only person, right, that I'm going to have non-sexual affection with, right? And there's just this bonding to that. Like there's my physical touches to you are different than any other relationship. So for me, physical intimacy is about that connection and bonding physically and that emotional support, right? Especially with like comfort or affection on a daily basis that makes it feel really like trusting and safe that you're my person, that I can lean into you, that we can explore each other's desires and sexual desires and pleasure together. It just, again, that too breeds a highly satisfied relationship because now we have physical intimacy, which helps you feel bonded and it's unique touch to this person that there's no other person like that in our life. And we have this emotional connection that feels safe and trusting. And I mean, just think both of those combined. Imagine if you're every day building on that and even talking about it. Because you're going to have the ruptures, but imagine if both of those felt really whole in your relationship because you're both continually trying to work towards that. Like I really like if you're listening to this right now, EJ, even as you and I sit here, like imagine emotional intimacy and physical intimacy really feeling whole and balanced. Like what would that feel like for you, for me, for us, for our family?
I mean, it just feels deeply satisfying. It feels like not alone. I guess I hate to describe things, through a negative, but it just feels like I have somebody. And then the thought that kept coming to my mind is, coming back to this idea that emotional and physical intimacy are part of one ecosystem, that when both are being cultivated, it creates momentum, is just that like our relationship just keeps getting deeper and deeper and more satisfying and more stable. Is just that like there's evolution, that we're not stagnant. We are growing together.
And I love this because on next week's episode, do you know that there's so many different types of emotional and physical intimacy? That's right. We are going to provide lots of education on all the different types. So you can really start thinking about it and having awesome conversations with your partner, because this is all about, hey, we want to build more emotional and physical intimacy. We want to build that in its own little bubble because that is intimacy, but they are combined with each other. And they're both very important. And we can't just see physical intimacy and not have emotional intimacy. And we can't just have emotional intimacy without physical intimacy. We have to learn how to build both of them that feel balanced for what that looks like for you.
Absolutely. So this has been a really like fun podcast as far as talking about this incredibly important thing, which is having a connected, emotionally balanced, intimate relationship with your partner. And, thank you, Tarah, for going through this with me.
Yeah, I'm excited to do the rest of this series. And we're really hoping that our listeners or YouTube audience get a lot out of this. So again, thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.